So this week, at home alone, I wondered what I was going to say about not being alone. Of course, there are bleak stories about the epidemic of loneliness in the US. Even the US Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, has been talking about loneliness and experienced it himself recently. And in exploring this subject, he learned the importance of community in people's lives. We can get so busy working, that we forget we need other people. And as a society, we're becoming increasingly isolated and alone, especially because of technology and our political divisions. So loneliness is a major issue affecting all ages and socioeconomic groups that can also lead to mental health challenges, which is why we wanted to do a special collection for NAMI today. So what do we do? Has anybody here ever experienced loneliness before? Let's see a show of hands. I would say that's most of us. And when I was reflecting on this sermon last week, I had an intense dream about walking past an evangelical church with thousands of people lining up outside to go in. And as I walked by, I remember feeling really jealous, wondering, why do so many people want to go there? Why don't we have thousands of people at our door? And of course, there was great music and lots of energy and young ministers, a couple who were in their early 20s who were preaching passionately about Jesus being there for you. But what the people lining up to get inside were wanting, I think, was, something we all want. A sense of not being alone in this life. A sense of belonging. A feeling of there's a community here to care for me. As well as a sense of being held and loved by something greater, whether it's Jesus or God or beautiful nature or some larger energy or the healing that comes from being in community. I know I've hoped for all that all my life and found it in Unitarian Universalism and here in this beautiful community. And I see some nods here too. And when I found out recently that I was getting separated, loneliness was actually my greatest fear, especially after 20 years of marriage. But I was taught some hard lessons in the run-up to this, as some of you know, to prepare me well for managing this fear. By breaking both of my feet while I was all alone in a forest on the side of a mountain with no one around me in a country where I didn't speak the language and I knew no one, I learned, to my surprise and all evidence to the contrary, that I was actually not alone. Now, as many of you know, unexpected people showed up for me, complete strangers. Several good Samaritans appeared and helped me learn that I was not alone, no matter how alone or lost I felt. And boy, was I desperate and alone in that moment. And when I returned, I came back to you all and was embraced by this loving community, reminding me again that no matter how difficult things got in my life, I wasn't alone. And you welcomed me back with such open, loving arms and a beautiful ritual. And my heart was filled to bursting by the love that you all carry and bring. There are loving, kind people in this community who are here for each and every one of us when we're struggling, and we just need to choose to open ourselves up to these gifts of fellowship. So though we may feel alone at times, we are actually not alone, and I can really attest to that. And during my recovery, I was also reminded about my connection to something larger, to my touchstones of strength and resilience. So I invite you to take a moment with me right now and close your eyes if you feel comfortable. And think about some of the resources of strength and comfort in your own life. Resources that you can draw on in your mind and in your heart when you feel alone or lost or in pain or ill or struggling of some kind. Now, it might be spiritual teachers to whom you feel connected or supported by. Or it could be a God of your understanding, the spirit of life, or the universal energy of love that you can draw on. It might be the strength of family or relationships that buoy you up. Or it could be nature, your favorite tree, mountain, or rock, the beach, something that helps you feel accompanied by the vastness of life. Or even an animal or a precious pet in your life. What energies might you draw on to help you in difficult times to feel less alone? Just take a moment to visualize one or two of those support beings or structures that you can call on when you need to. And now you may open your eyes, and I invite you to draw on whatever came up for you in your life as you go through hard times. But today, my beloveds, is all about community, about our friends, and sharing this loving fellowship with one another. Today is here to remind us that we each have each other, and we are cared for. Just look around you. I invite you to take a look around. Catch the eyes of someone you might not usually catch the eyes of. Look around and see these compassionate, kind faces. And if you're on Zoom, look at all the other lovely Zoom faces. These people who will show up for you if you get sick or if you're having a tough time. There's a peace sign over there. Or if you're hungry or you're in need. These people will listen to you if you have a problem that you need to talk through, or they will place healing hands on you, or they will accompany you through the ups and downs of life. We help each other find meaning and purpose in life by being here for each other and the larger community. And even though it may not feel like it some days, every single one of us has someone who walks this path of life with us as a friend, or an acquaintance, a therapist, a spiritual teacher, a relative, or pet. We all have someone who cares about our existence. Even if we have to conjure that being in our imaginations from deep within us, we are actually not alone. The universe supports us, whether it be through the chirping birds we get to hear every morning, the comforting golden moon at night, or the rich soil of our earth that grows our food that nourishes us. And of course, by serving others through our volunteer efforts, our justice work, and community care, we also find greater meaning in the midst of our aloneness. Working with someone to cook a meal for the unhoused, or like our children are doing right now, cook breakfast for us all. Or collecting supplies for local children and communities, or marching together for human rights and racial justice. All those things connect us to one another and give us a greater purpose in life, don't they? Don't they? Because that's what we're all about here at Chalice. We're about coming together as community to serve one another and the world. So now I thought we'd hear from a couple of others in this community who have realized that they are not alone because of their connection to Chalice. So Grenda, would you like to share a few words with us? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Nica, thank you for your story. I had some words prepared, but I something came to me in the moment in your share that I want to share with you. 10 years ago in October, Camille and I were in Europe, and we came home from a little trip. I had somehow magically won tickets to the Doctor Who convention in London, and my kid was a huge Doctor Who fan, so we went. And when I came home, I thought my house had been robbed. My husband had disappeared and moved out of the house and taken all of his stuff, quite to my surprise. And life unfolded in this sort of dark night of the soul experience. And I worked with my husband in a business, so in the moment, not only was I finding out I was divorced, I was finding out I was unemployed. And I was devastated. So I decided I was going to go back to school. And I went back to school, and I spent the next many years kind of in a feared panic. Like I needed to make sure I could take care of myself and that Camille and I were going to be okay. So I did. And I think in my put my head down and I'm going to do this thing way, I just was so busy, I didn't really have time to think about anything on the outer. And one of my choices was I was going to move to Oregon and buy a house. And Camille and I were going to go build a new life. So we did. And we ended up moving back to Ventura County 2 Octobers ago. And I knew I was in a new community, and I didn't know anyone. And we had moved here because Camille's dad lives in Oxnard, and we wanted to all be near each other so that Camille could have both of his parents. But what I felt was profoundly alone. I had sort of felt like I'd been cast out of my life, where I was very active in a community and very busy and part of a large Jewish family, and suddenly I felt exiled. So when I moved here, one of the things that was important to me was that I find my people in my community. And so I went online and I typed in liberal churches. And as you know, that's not necessarily a long list. And I found Chalice. And Chalice was advertising that they were having a Halloween party. And part of the Halloween party was a scavenger hunt. So Camille and I went around the community and we took pictures of Halloween decorations. I think people thought we were stalking their homes. But it was fun. And we got in the car and we showed up at Chalice on Halloween. And Sam, wherever you are, Angel, invited us in and made me feel at home. And she embraced my kid in a way that made me feel a part of something that I had felt like Camille and I didn't know where we fit. And I knew I had found my home. And I no longer felt alone. Fast forward, in January, I took a fall in my house, quite unexpectedly, preparing to leave town for a trip, and fractured my ankle. And suddenly I was homebound. And in the moment, I was terrified, right? Because I'm like, first of all, no one knew I was in the floor. But second of all, I was like, oh no, I don't have anybody to help take care of me. So I called Ani and Sharon and friends that I'd made in this community, and I was immediately surrounded by love. You brought me food. You came to my house. You ran errands for me. You helped find little wheelie things so that I could move. And you ran errands, and you took care of me. And you came to my home and visited me when I was locked inside and depressed. And once again, I knew I was home, and I knew I wasn't alone. I have to tell you how much I love you and how much it means to me to be a part of this community. And if you're feeling alone and you feel like you don't know where you fit or that you don't know if you have a place where you belong, I assure you it's here. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to just hang out with you and look in your eyes and feel loved by you and to love you and to show up and have fun and do silly things and to be of service and to put love in the world with you. So we're not alone. I know I'm not alone because of you. So thank you.
Getting my clock out. I don't want to go over. It's on. Oh, I'm Matt Chappa. Obviously, I'm alone because I don't know my name. Thank you, Brenda. Vulnerability. It is a gift that I did not have till 8 years ago. 8 years ago, before I came here, or thereabouts, I was impervious. I was boastful, and I had it all figured out. All. I had a very disturbed following of 4 friends, which I still hope that I have. And I never was accountable for anything because I didn't have to be. I thought that that was a weakness. Brash, swaggering, I'm sure you can't see it. I've never been married. I've never had kids. I've never had pets. Well, I had a pet when I was a kid. But I haven't had pets as an adult. I wanted to make sure that I could move at a moment's notice, that I had, again, no accountability. And then, for some bizarre reason, the universe decided to inflict you guys on me. That's true. It was the other way around. Thank gosh I can count on you. Here's the thing about this community that I don't think people that aren't part of this community don't understand and wouldn't necessarily appreciate, and that is that I can be whoever I am and be loved. I can be whoever I'm not and be loved. I can screw up beyond repair and be loved. And I just want people to understand the power of that. Because that's a power. If we're about personal growth and development, and I think most of us here are sort of that mindset, you cannot have that if you cannot be vulnerable. And to be vulnerable, you have to be inside of a community that is not going to judge you. Because if they do judge you, then you're going to feel alone. The other gift that it gave me was the internal ability to be with myself. Because what I really didn't get until then was that I was adrift from within. And if you want to talk about loneliness, let's talk about being adrift from within. But at 4 minutes, I don't have time to talk about that, so we're going to wrap it up. Like Brenda, I have to say that I am an absolute adoration of this community, and I love you guys more than I could ever possibly enumerate. I know many of you think that that's probably not possible, but yes, more than I could enumerate. And for our fearless leader,
Thank you. Thank you both so much for your vulnerability, your heartfelt sharing. We're so grateful you're part of this community and all the gifts that you bring into our midst, even though you might not know they're gifts. They are. What treasures we have in this community, and every single one of you is a treasure in a different way, a unique treasure.